The older I get, the more suspicious I become of people who say they figured life out. Nobody says that normally. That's cult behavior. If a man in sandals tells you the meaning of life is actually very simple, you should immediately check whether he's trying to sell tea for $49. Because somehow every explanation of existence eventually turns into a subscription, a podcast, or a guy named Ethan explaining energy frequencies near a waterfall. And Ethan always looks hydrated in a way that feels financially manipulative. I think humanity would accept almost anything, as long as someone explains it confidently beside a microphone. That's how we ended up listening to 22-year-olds talk about escaping the Matrix while recording from apartments paid for by their parents. The internet has created a terrifying species, the motivational prophet. You've seen them. They wake up at 4:30 a.m. for reasons no doctor recommended. They stare at cities from balconies, drink glowing liquids, and speak like ancient monks who recently discovered cryptocurrency. Most people are asleep. Brother, most people are just tired. Big difference. I once watched a video called How to Unlock Your True Purpose. The first step was buying a course. Interesting coincidence. That's when I realized every modern explanation of life secretly sounds like a pyramid scheme. Once you understand the mindset, everything changes. That sentence alone has stolen millions of dollars globally. And it's never enough to just live anymore. No! Now you need a system, a framework, a morning routine, 12 habits, and a podcast hosted by a man who sits in chairs backwards emotionally. Children don't think like this. Children understand life instinctively. A child sees a puddle and thinks, I should jump into that. An adult sees a puddle and thinks, if I ruin these shoes, I'll mentally collapse by Thursday. That's not wisdom. That's accumulated psychological paperwork, somewhere between childhood and adulthood. Human beings stopped experiencing life directly. Now we optimize it. Even happiness sounds corporate. 10 scientifically proven ways to feel joy. Why does joy need peer-reviewed research now? At this point, I expect someone to release Premium Happiness Plus. Add free emotions, offline breathing, priority access to inner peace. And honestly, people would buy it. Because modern life has turned basic human experiences into luxury products, sleep, silence, free time. A nervous system that doesn't vibrate near emails. These are now considered elite achievements. I think the reason people keep searching for the meaning of life is because nobody likes admitting that existence might just be weird, temporary, confusing, and emotionally underfunded. That answer doesn't sell books. Nobody wants to hear. Yeah, honestly, we're all improvising. People want certainty. That's why self-help gurus talk like airline pilots during turbulence. Even when they clearly have no idea where we're going. Trust the process. What process? Half of humanity eats dinner while standing next to the sink scrolling through existential exhaustion. There is no process. There's just Wi-Fi and unresolved childhood patterns. Scientists say humans naturally seek meaning. Of course we do. Have you seen Existence? Nothing about this feels accidental. Why does sadness make people philosophical? Why does music change your personality temporarily? Why can one smell suddenly transport you to 2009 emotionally? Reality behaves suspiciously poetic sometimes. And that's dangerous. Because humans cannot handle mystery calmly. The second something feels spiritually confusing, someone starts a podcast. I genuinely believe podcasts are just modern campfires for emotionally overwhelmed adults. A man with a deep voice says, here's what nobody tells you. And suddenly millions of people stop folding laundry to listen. Including me, especially me. I once listened to a 3-hour podcast called The Hidden Truth About Human Potential. Do you know what the hidden truth was? Sleep more. Drink water. Go outside. That's not hidden wisdom. That's advice your grandmother could have given while holding soup, but because a bald man said it into a $400 microphone, it became enlightenment. Humans are deeply programmable creatures. We'll ignore basic truths for years, until someone rebrands them with minimalist fonts. Take meditation. For thousands of years, people sat quietly and breathed. Now it's neuro-optimized mindfulness performance recovery. Brother, you're sitting still. Capitalism could rebrand gravity if given enough funding. Grounding yourself naturally with earth-based vertical positioning. That's standing. I think adulthood secretly confuses everyone because nobody expected life to contain this many invisible tasks. Children imagine adulthood as freedom, not comparing toothpaste brands for emotional reasons. Wondering if back pain is stress or death, or spending 40 minutes choosing a Netflix show before rewatching the same thing emotionally. Nobody prepared us for the psychological weight of tiny decisions, especially online. Modern people make more decisions before breakfast than medieval farmers made in a month. No wonder everyone looks spiritually buffering. Sometimes I think anxiety isn't even a disorder anymore. It's just the tax for being conscious during this phase of civilization. Because look around, phones vibrate constantly. News headlines read like humanity hired drama writers. Every app wants your attention like an emotionally neglected ex-partner. And somehow you're still expected to stay healthy, find purpose, answer emails professionally, and maintain a positive mindset. That phrase alone feels emotionally sponsored, positive mindset. Meanwhile, half the population is one unexpected notification away from staring at a wall professionally. And yet every guru speaks with absolute certainty. That's what scares me. Certainty, normal people say. I don't know, suspicious people say. Everything happens for a reason. Oh, really? Then explain printer malfunctions. Explain why humans can remember embarrassing moments from 11 years ago, but forget why they entered the kitchen immediately. Explain why emotional pain causes people to suddenly start running marathons. Human behavior makes no sense, which honestly might be the meaning of life. Not clarity, participation. Think about it. Children don't ask, how do I optimize my existence? Children ask, can worms feel lonely? That's a real question, and honestly, it contains more humanity than most leadership seminars. Because children are curious without trying to monetize the curiosity. Adults ruin everything by turning it into content. Even healing became performative. People can't just recover emotionally anymore. Now it's my 6 a.m. healing journey, featuring expensive candles, filtered sadness, and oatmeal that costs more than gasoline. I saw someone online say, you need to become the highest version of yourself. That sounds exhausting. What if I become a medium quality version peacefully? What if enlightenment is just replying? Sounds good without emotionally collapsing afterward? That feels achievable. I think social media accidentally turned human existence into a competition nobody agreed to enter. Now people document everything, morning routines, cold showers, journaling, protein intake, spiritual awakenings. Ancient philosophers used to stare at rivers quietly. Now someone would upload 5 stoic river habits that changed my income. We cannot leave reality alone anymore. Everything must become optimized, monetized, and narrated aggressively. Even rest feels competitive. People track sleep with apps now. Imagine explaining that to someone from 1450. Yes, small glowing rectangle says I slept wrong. Civilization peaked emotionally around hammocks. After that, we got too ambitious. And the strange thing is, deep down, most people already know the important stuff. Be kind. Sleep more. Call people you love. Don't spend your entire life becoming emotionally available only to corporations. Simple, painfully simple. That's why people complicate it, because if the meaning of life is actually simple, then most of modern society becomes extremely awkward. Imagine realizing peace cannot be purchased through productivity apps, luxury branding, or emotionally expensive water bottles. Entire industries would collapse overnight. I think that's why humans prefer complicated answers. Complicated answers feel valuable. If someone says, the secret to happiness is presence, you ignore them. But if someone says, the secret to happiness is my exclusive 14-week neuroexpansion system, suddenly people take notes. That's pyramid scheme psychology. The more confusing the explanation, the more important people assume it must be. Meanwhile, the happiest person you know is probably someone's grandfather eating fruit outside silently. No podcast, no strategy, no biohacking, just existing correctly. Which might secretly be the hardest skill left. Because modern life constantly interrupts existence, notifications, advertisements, algorithms, news. Opinions from strangers who look emotionally loud. The average human brain never gets to land anymore. We're psychologically open in 43 tabs at all times. And one of them is playing anxiety music quietly in the background. I think that's why silence feels strange now. Not peaceful, strange, because silence forces people to meet themselves without buffering. And honestly, that meeting goes badly for many people, especially at night. Nighttime is dangerous because your personality loses customer support after midnight. Everything becomes philosophical after 1 a.m. A man can accidentally discover the meaning of existence while eating shredded cheese in darkness. I know because I've done it. And every time I almost understand life, someone online says, here are 8 habits millionaires use before breakfast. Suddenly existence feels like homework again. That's the scam. Modern society convinced people that life is something to win. But maybe life isn't a business model. Maybe it's just a strange temporary experience where conscious monkeys fall in love, listen to music, panic about emails, and occasionally cry in grocery store parking lots for reasons too complicated to explain. Maybe that's enough? Maybe meaning was never supposed to be complicated. Maybe humans complicated it because simplicity leaves no room for superiority. You cannot build an empire selling. Drink water, go outside, call your mother. Too honest, but you can build an empire selling. Unlock the hidden frequency of abundance. That sounds expensive immediately. And maybe the funniest part of all this is that the people most obsessed with escaping the system somehow always need you to buy something first. Very rebellious. What if the meaning of life is simple? Why does everyone explain it like a pyramid scheme? Because humans are terrified that ordinary things might actually matter most. A quiet morning, a real laugh, someone who listens carefully, feeling present for 1 full second without needing to record it. Those things are too small to sound impressive online. But deep down, most people already know. The best moments in life rarely look successful while they're happening. They just feel real. And honestly, that might be the closest thing humanity ever gets to truth.